On average, humans breathe about 25,000 times per day. But what if I told you we're breathing just a little bit too much? I recently finished the book Breath by James Nestor, and there are a lot of things that I learned about breathing that I had absolutely no idea about. If we pay a little bit more attention to our breathing, then we can create some huge shifts in our lives and in our health. So in this video, I'm going to be doing a book review of the book Breath by James Nestor. So how did this book end up in my lap, and what can this book do for you? Well, this book ended up in my lap because I read another book called Deep by James Nestor, and I loved his writing style so much that I decided to look into other books that he had written. I was very curious about breathing and didn't know a lot about the topic, and so it was an easy download. In terms of what this book can do for you, well, it can really expand your mind on the importance of breathing, and it can open your eyes to the fact that if you make small adjustments to the way you breathe, you can create huge shifts in your health. Breathing is something that we never think about. It's something that's automatic, but if you train yourself to breathe in different ways, if you use breathing as a tool, you can really cause some positive impacts on your life. On this channel, you'll find so many tools that help you to design a life of purpose and to help improve your life for the better. This is just another one of those tools. And the beauty of it is that it already lies within us. All we have to do is take a step back, examine how we breathe, and make small adjustments. One of the things that I love about James Nestor is that he combines science, history, and anecdotes. And that's part of the reason why I get so glued to his books, because he is a curious person. He experiments, he researches, he meets with people who are dedicating their lives to these topics, whether it's the ocean or breathing, and he shares those experiences with us. So I'm here to give you snippets of what he's spent years doing in this book, and hopefully convince you to read this book by the end of the journey and to even try out some of these breathing techniques. Okay, so takeaway number one is the importance of nasal breathing. I think we've all experienced this moment where if we're a little sick and we lay down, one of our nostrils gets plugged up. And so what we do is we roll to the other side of the bed, that nostril clears up, and then the other one gets clogged, and we kind of roll back and forth. And I never understood why, but this kind of became clear in this book. And one of the reasons is because we actually have erectile tissue in our noses, which is crazy thought, kind of blew my mind when I discovered this. And it's the same tissue that's found in our sexual organs. Why is this important? Well, this tissue swells and contracts, which helps with airflow. There is a nasal cycle, which means that one of our nostrils is usually a little bit more open than the other. And the reason for this cycle is so that one nostril can kind of recover and rest while the other one is doing a little bit more of the work. And so they're constantly switching load back and forth. And this tissue that we have in our noses, which is very sensitive, helps us to regulate airflow. In addition to regulating airflow, our noses helps to humidify, to filter, and to warm the air that's entering our bodies. And in turn, this helps us to decrease the amount of pathogens that we inhale. It helps to protect our lungs. And overall, it reduces the amount of irritation that we experience by breathing in the air around us. Our noses produce nitric oxide, which helps us to absorb oxygen. And this nitric oxide is important because it relaxes our blood vessels, which in turn helps us to circulate that oxygen throughout our body and to our vital organs. So now that we understand how important it is to breathe through our nose because of all of its roles and its functions, it kind of underscores the reason why breathing through our mouths is somewhat of a bad thing. Breathing through our mouths has actually been linked to snoring, to sleep apnea, loss of focus, and anxiety. And it's even been linked to a decrease in athletic performance. And this is just because breathing through our mouths is less efficient than breathing through our noses. So key takeaway here, focus on breathing through your nose instead of through your mouth. A second key takeaway is that carbon dioxide isn't bad. Unfortunately for carbon dioxide, it's known as a waste gas. It does not have a good reputation amongst people, but we need to rethink how we view carbon dioxide. James Nestor in Breath delivers this awesome metaphor that really helped me to understand carbon dioxide and its role in our bodies. I want you to imagine a little boat, and this little boat is traveling through our bodies, and its role is to deliver oxygen to all of the tissues and organs in our bodies. Well, imagine the passengers on this boat are the oxygen, and carbon dioxide in this metaphor would be the anchor of the boat. And so our bodies are complex systems, and there are many, many stops that this boat would have to take. And the carbon dioxide that's in our bodies acts as an anchor for this boat so that the passengers, the oxygen on this boat, can get off at the proper stop and enter the tissues and the organs of our bodies that most need it. And so without an anchor, imagine how unstable this boat would be. Imagine how inefficient it would be for the oxygen to be circulated throughout our body. Carbon dioxide actually plays a crucial role in helping the oxygen to be delivered throughout our entire body. James Nestor takes a deep dive into CO2. He researches it, he meets with people who study it, and he even experiments with it. And he learns that there are people who do CO2 training, where they take a seat and they actually get doses of CO2 into their body so that they can build endurance towards having it, because a high buildup of CO2 can create this sense of panic within us. And as I was reading the story, I was actually reminded of an experience that I had when I was diving in Greece, where I think I had a little bit too much CO2 buildup in my body. Unfortunately, I was 30 meters underneath the ocean, and I had a panic attack while I was diving. And I remember wanting to reach for my dive instructor. I remember wanting to just immediately swim to the surface, which would have been very bad. And eventually I was able to calm myself down. But it's not natural for us to feel calm and to feel relaxed when we have a high buildup of CO2. And so James Nestor found it important to experiment with it, to build up tolerance to it, and to just see how his body would react to it. He did, in fact, experience the same type of panic attack that I just described, as most people do. But if you do it in a controlled environment and you practice taking it in and experiencing the feeling, then you can build up a tolerance to it and really reap the benefits of having enough CO2 in your body so that oxygen is delivered throughout your entire body. The main way that James Nestor tries to tell you you can efficiently have enough CO2 in your body is to slow your breathing and to practice slower breathing, to essentially breathe less, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video. After all of his research, he was able to deduce that the ideal breath is about 5.5 to 6 seconds an inhale and 5.5 to 6 seconds on an exhale, totaling about 5.5 breaths per minute. Now, if you pay attention to the way you're breathing right now, it's nowhere near 5.5 seconds. So you would really have to focus on slowing that inhale and slowing that exhale. And it may feel unnatural because you have to think about it and you have to really slow the pace down. I've been experimenting with it over the last couple of weeks, and it's brought me a massive sense of calm in everything I'm doing. I do it when I do yoga. I do it when I'm headed to work. I do it when I feel myself getting a little stressed. I do it when I'm walking along the beach. It's an incredible tool that we can use to calm our nervous systems and to just relax. Takeaway number 3 is that breathing shapes your body and your performance. This was something else that blew my mind, and it's essentially that mouth breathing, as opposed to nasal breathing, has really shaped our mouths, our jaws. And the way that it's done so is that it's resulted in crowded teeth, smaller airways, and narrow jaws. James Nestor includes a bunch of research and experiments that have been done to study this, where scientists have been able to find that the way we breathe through our mouth actually affects this region of our face right here, the shape of our jaw, the airways that we use to take in air. It's all affected by our breathing. And it's crazy because it's something that you never think about. And this is important because we can look at it like posture, whether it's the way we sit in the chair or the way we stand or the way we exercise. The way we breathe affects our posture. It affects the makeup of our mouth. And the mouth is also important for our bodies. We use them to communicate. We use them to eat and to chew the food that we're ingesting. We use them for so many different reasons. And so if we have poor posture for our mouths, then that inevitably is going to affect our health. However, if you're breathing through your nose, then you're going to increase the likelihood that you improve your performance, you improve your endurance, you improve your overall quality of life, because you're breathing in such a way that you're getting as much oxygen and creating CO2, nitric oxide, as is needed for your body. This is especially important for athletes, for people who do yoga, for free divers. Think about how important breathing is when it comes to performance and to recovery for all of these individuals. I love the idea of focusing on breathing as a form of bettering our posture. It's similar to the way we try to improve our posture so that we don't hunch our backs, or so that we don't end up with aches and pains in our backs. The way we breathe affects our oxygen intake. It affects the delivery of oxygen throughout our body. And if that is the life force that keeps us sustained and keeps us alive, then why wouldn't we want to ensure that we're breathing in the best and most efficient way possible? I've briefly shared 3 takeaways from Breath by James Nestor, but you're bound to find even more once you decide to read this book. Breathing is an overlooked superpower that we all possess, and it's one that I really came to understand by reading this book. James Nestor is an excellent writer. He provides really engaging stories that keep you interested throughout the book and turning the pages, and he educates you along the way. I would recommend this book to literally anybody because we all breathe, we're all humans, and it would only serve to improve your life. The beautiful thing about this is that you don't need any equipment. It doesn't cost any money or anything like that. All you need is a little bit of awareness, a little bit of practice, and you can improve your health. I conveniently made another video about breathing techniques, one that's included in this book, and one that is from Iceman or Wim Hof himself. Check it out here, linked above, and I'll see you guys in next week's video. Thank you.